Let's now pivot to how this latest indictment plays into the 2024 election, with President Trump and President Biden both very much still the front runners for the primaries. Let's bring in Max Burns, a Democratic strategist and the founder of Third Degree Strategies, and also Ashley Hayek, Chief Engagement Officer for the America First Policy Institute. Thank you both for being with us. I'd like to start with this. That recent New York Times Siena College poll taken before President Trump was indicted for a third time found that he was tied with President Biden in a hypothetical rematch of the 2020 election, both tied at 43%. Max, I'll start with you. How do you read these numbers, and how would you advise Democrats to pull ahead of the Trump campaign, particularly in the wake of this latest indictment? I mean, in the last two, we've seen fundraising get turbocharged. We've seen a boost in his numbers. How would you advise Democrats at this time?
Well, despite the Democratic tendency, I think, to hyperventilate over polls like this, I'm not especially worried. I mean, I think, for one, most voters are not yet paying a lot of attention to this race, despite how that may seem for those of us who live in politics. And the other side of that is that Donald Trump's campaign is rapidly running out of money due to the amount of money they're spending on legal fees. So that's going to create, maybe not immediately, but down the line here, a real cash crunch for the former president. And that's going to be an opportunity to essentially outmessage him in the field. Add to that the fact that Donald Trump will likely spend much of the summer in courtrooms instead of on the campaign trail. And you have a real opportunity for voters to see the weight of these cases against him. And I think we see that independent voters do not like this.
Yeah, and to your point about legal fees, we reported earlier this week that they have mounted to north of $40 million just this year alone. A fourth indictment could be coming this month. President Trump is dominating the GOP field. There's no doubt about it. But some of his rivals are starting to make his legal troubles a campaign issue. Ashley, I want to play a bit of sound and then get your take on the other side.
I want voters to listen to this. It is most likely that by the time we get on the debate stage on August 23rd, the front runner will be out on bail in 4 different jurisdictions.
So that was obviously Chris Christie there. So, Ashley, will that messaging win over Republican voters in the face of this third indictment?
You know, I want to point out something that Max rightly said, and that was that this is all an attempt to basically drain the resources of President Trump. And so at the end of the day, when we're looking at what these charges are and what they stand for, as the lawyer that you just showed on previous to this conversation, it's all ridiculous. It's a complete stretch, all of these charges. And quite frankly, it's going to motivate people who feel like this is a weaponization of justice. It's allowing the Republicans to talk about a 2-tiered political justice system that is under Biden administration. It's the DOJ coming for the Catholic dad. It's the DOJ coming after the 81-year-old Army veteran. It's the DOJ coming after the school board moms. So this is a complete misstep. And the clip that you showed with Governor Christie, everybody knows that there's, beef there. So let's see a candidate like Tim Scott or Governor DeSantis, because they are also calling out Biden's DOJ. And the left, all they want to do is undermine the president and the conservative talking points and distract from Biden's horrific policies that people are running away from.
Yeah. This is the first time that President Trump was indicted for something that he allegedly did as president. That same New York Times Siena College poll shows a majority of Americans think the former president did commit serious federal crime. A majority of independents, 55%, feel the same way, as do a small but growing number of Republicans. Max, will this latest indictment see those numbers go up? And, do Democrats fear what this does to their chances in 2024?
Well, it certainly will drive up those numbers for Trump. I think the reality is you can't really pin this one on the left. I mean, the people who provided testimony in this case to Jack Smith were all Republicans, including many people Donald Trump appointed, including his own vice president, who expressed so much concern over what Donald Trump was doing that his team requested additional Secret Service protection. This is not something that you can say is just a conspiracy of the left. And there is quite a bit of direct documentary evidence that clearly came from contemporaneous notes, potentially recordings taken at the time, that has given Jack Smith a sense that this is a very strong case to move on. And when you start to present those loyal Republicans as also saying Donald Trump committed a crime, that's going to resonate with a lot of voters, even if they're not fans of Democrats.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.